Check, check, check. Oh, I'm terribly sorry about... Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. I have to do something about this. Check, 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 check. There we go. Okay, I'm very sorry about that. Like I said, this is an experiment in the live stream. If there's anybody out there, please let me know in the chat. Say hi. Say something nice. I sure could use somebody to say something nice to me. That would be really great. Because I had a really bad day today. And so I don't know how much of that I want to get into, but if you appreciate me and you appreciate my work, be sure to go in line, and if you want to, I don't know who's watching this. I don't know if you're familiar with what I do or not, but for about the last 10 years I've worked as a fractivist, and I've worked fighting pipelines, and and I was going to do something, but I just don't know if I can do this while I'm talking or not. Let me just try to do something really quick, and okay, so that's going to work. So here's what I want you to do, if you can. Oh, I'm not in studio mode anymore, so that happened live. So here's what I want you to do. If you're unfamiliar with my work, just Google that right there. Google Bill Houston's fracking resume, and you'll come up with a list of what I've done with my life for the past 10 years. I've been fiercely committed to protecting clean water and clean air, and I've been committed fiercely to transitioning off of dirty carbon fuels that are not only dirty and contaminating and polluting, and they destroy water supplies not only in the production areas like Dimock, Pennsylvania, but also the pipelines. When they put in these pipelines, the pipelines they destroy foundations, and they destroy septic systems, and they destroy water wells, and it happens all the time when they build these pipelines. So, and they destroy property rights, and these oil and gas companies are so powerful with the amount of money that they have that they also destroy democracy. They destroy people's abilities to self-govern, and so that's why I've done this work, and I've just done so many different things. If you go look at here, let me see if I can bring it up and we can read it along. We can, oh, that's not it. Okay. So different channels where my work is. Unfortunately, it's not easy for me to direct you to my work. But Shale Shock, New York Friends of Clean Air and Water, those are two big ones. Bill Houston Podcast, that's the channel you're watching now. Please like and subscribe. Click the bell for notifications if you want to be alerted of when I go live or produce a new video. I've done audio engineering. I've done a lot of original research and blogging, and blogging is, I feel like it's helping to translate, complex subjects of law and science into accessible language. I think that's something that I'm good at. That's one of my skills. I do a lot of graphic design work and social media. I'm a digital archivist. Have several large document collections, including the Virtual Pipelines document collection, including all kinds of things, trailer safety data, the design, not the design, but the owner's manuals for these virtual pipeline trailers. I call them ultra high pressure type 4 CNG carbon fiber composite virtual pipeline tube trailers. That's the long. It's kind of like the long, very descriptive name. I like to call them bomb trucks because of their highly explosive potential, and it's shorter. So that's why I like to call them bomb trucks, because ultra high pressure Type 4 CNG virtual pipeline tube trailers is a little bit hard to say. There's a lot of stuff going on with these bomb trucks right now. Let me just give you a quick bomb trucks summary. And as I check to see, it says 2 watching. Let me know if you're watching. Say hi in the chat. So here's the bomb trucks rundown. So the first thing is, in New York, okay, here in New York, we've got a couple of things going on. Number one, we've got the existing facility in Mechanicsville, New York. That's with NYSEG. There have been several different local distribution, natural gas local distribution companies that have connected these ultra high pressure Type 4 CNG virtual pipeline tube trailers to their natural gas local distribution systems. I think it's a very, very bad idea, because the pressures involved create very, very unique risks that haven't been seen in natural gas local distribution systems for many, many years, forever, because typically these natural gas local distribution systems are fed by pipelines that are around, between, I would say, 800 psi, let's say 600 psi up to, say, 1200 psi. That's what the pipelines are normally fed at. The transmission lines run at higher pressure, up to 1440, some even go up to 1460. So there's a current proposal. There's 2 current proposals that I know about in New York State for these bomb trucks. One is in Tompkins County, in the Lansing area. Well, Lansing is in Tompkins County. It's just north of Ithaca. And what they're proposing to do is, there's a few weeks a year that NYSEG says that the pressure's too low, because it's the time of greatest demand. Maxed it out. The customers are drawing more gas than the system has the capacity to supply. So they have to figure out some way to either shed load, which means, get people on using some means of heating their house in the minute. Hope it didn't drop out. So Tompkins County, Lansing has this problem of low pressure during a few weeks a year. So one of their proposals is to bring in these ultra high pressure Type 4 CNG virtual pipeline tube trailers, running at, they'll say they're 3600 psi. In actual fact, they're more like 4500 psi. And I'm happy to get into that. If anybody has any questions, leave a comment in the chat, and try to answer your questions. So we've got the one in Lansing. That's a proposal. That means more of these trucks coming into New York. We also have a proposal in Oneonta, New York, and they want to develop this area by the railroad yards. So they're going to do a couple of things. Number one, they want to be there's this pipeline that comes from De Ruyter, New York, off of the Dominion pipeline, and they want to basically more than double its capacity, the existing pipeline, by laying new pipe. So that's one thing they want to do. And then concurrently, what they want to do, as a short-term solution, they are proposing they bring in these ultra-high pressure Type 4 CNG virtual pipeline tube trailers to pressurize the local distribution system. Well, what's wrong with that? Let's just discuss some of the problems with this right now. And the main problem, there's a couple of problems. Number one, these trucks are high volume, and they're depending on the facility and the amount of gas they're using. We have this one existing virtual pipeline that exists between it's XNG's terminal in Forest Lake, Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, that goes up to XNG's terminal in Herkimer County, Manheim, New York, and that we have observed that facility running trucks at the rate of up to 5 per hour. So these can be very, very high volume routes, and these high volume routes can pose dangers to the communities where these trucks are running. And these trucks have very high center of gravity, or center of mass is actually a more scientific term, I would say. So they have a very high rollover rate, and there's been lots of these trucks that have had rollover accidents. So I hope you're not seeing that red. There we go. Hope that looks better. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Okay. So we've got one existing facility in Mechanicsville, New York. We've got 2 proposals, one in Oneonta, Otsego County, New York, and one in Lansing, Tompkins County, New York. And there's a current rate case. There's going to be public hearings coming up in Binghamton and a few other areas, maybe Rochester, I think, having to do with this NYSEG rate case. I don't have my notes handy in front of me. This was an impromptu live stream, so I'm hoping to do another live stream coming up and give you all that information. So, and the other one isn't in New York. There's another proposal that was just approved, and that is in Keene, New Hampshire, Keene, Keene, New Hampshire. That's a very unusual system. They have an existing, what they call a propane air system that's distributed around in people's homes, and they're getting rid of that, and they're going to be replacing it with natural gas. And they just got approval for this facility to be constructed. I believe, as far as I know, I've been reading a lot of these documents, and there's a lot of stuff that I'm tracking, so I hope I have all the details right. My understanding is Keene, New Hampshire, was just approved. I do not believe the facility has been constructed. This has been going on for a long time. I would say a couple of years. And I have to watch the stream health. It's just been going red on me. I hope there's been no dropouts. Sorry if there's dropouts. I have limited bandwidth here. This is a test stream just to see how this all works. This is one of my first live stream attempts, okay? So Keene, New Hampshire, Production Avenue. If you happen to live in Keene, the facility is going to be on Production Avenue. There's a little circle at the end of that. That's where they're going to build this thing. So there's a lot of these things going on. So once again, what's the problem with the pressure? What is the problem with the pressure? So the problem is that it's called the Joule-Thomson effect, Joule, Joule. There's a unit of energy called joules, because there was this famous dude named Joule, Joule. Let me tell you his name. James Prescott Joule, Joule, and he worked with a guy called Thomson, 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 and Joule-Thomson effect. The Joule-Thomson effect derives from the ideal gas law, and basically it says this. It makes a connection between gas pressure and gas temperature. So when you compress a gas, you heat it up. and when you decompress it, it gets cold. So one thing you can do is that you can, if you've ever held like a can of, whipped cream, or a can of hairspray, if you ever discharged the whole thing, or a fire extinguisher, and you discharge the whole thing all at once, what happens to your hand? What's the temperature of the can? It gets really cold, right? That's the Joule-Thomson effect. And so if you work out the math, there's a formula, a rule of thumb that I found. This is the rule of thumb that's used by the API, the American Petroleum Institute. And the rule of thumb is 7 degrees Fahrenheit for every 100 psi that you're compressing or decompressing. That's going to give you the temperature delta. Oh, and what I didn't say was that when you compress gas, it gets hot. So this is why, like I said, was an impromptu live stream. I'm going to try to redo this and maybe give you some more fancy graphics. I have lots of graphics on this, but I just wanted to test out the live stream, test out my bandwidth, test out the microphone, test out the new backdrop. If anybody wants to send me $30 to my PayPal so that I can get a green screen, and that way I can make this composition a little bit cleaner, I'd appreciate that. So you can get a link to my PayPal. It's actually the top one right here. The top one, the tinyurl.com/donate to Bill Houston. That's my PayPal link. Or if you just go to Bill Houston's fracking resume. If you look at that link, just Google that. Google Bill Houston's fracking resume. And at the bottom of that is my snail mail address if you want to send me a check or a munchie. This is the only thing that I do. And I just need a lot of help, and I can get into that, and that gets into what a crappy day that I had today. Gets into a lot of personal business. Do I want to share my personal business? Well, if you want to look at the front page of the Susquehanna Independent, you can see one of the reasons why I had such a bad day today. And I just don't want to get into all that right now. But I have suffered so much at the hands of my friends. And I know from NVC, nonviolent communication, we're not supposed to use these ED words, right? We're supposed to, because that's supposedly a judgment. But that's what's up for me right now. I feel like I have been betrayed and abandoned by my friends, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. And I feel like my only way to really defend myself and defend my character is to speak out about what's happened to me. And not everybody. I have a couple of friends. I have a few friends. I'm so grateful to my donors who send me money out of the blue. I'm so grateful, because I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for my donors and my friends. So I'm really, really grateful to you all. Anyway, I just don't know how much I want to get into about this whole kerfuffle that happened today, but I've had a really crappy year and an even crappier last 6 months, and I've been under fierce attack by Cabot Oil and Gas. They broke off their attack late in May, and I've been living free from this since late May. But it all kind of shit hit the fan today, and so I have a lot of personal problems that I have to deal with here, friends, and I feel like I'm close to giving up and quitting this work. And if you want to see the work that I've done for the last 10 years, I've done a lot of stuff. So just go look at Bill Houston's fracking resume, and we were reading that before. I do custom web programming. I make a lot of maps. There's a list. If you go to Bill Houston's fracking resume, there's Deborah Rogers, Tony Angraffia, David Hughes, Sandra Steingraber, Vera Scroggins, List of the Harmed, We Are Seneca Lake. Thousands of views. My videos have gotten thousands of views. So please take a look at the video work that I've done. And there's an embed in there for my my editor's picks, my greatest hits. So you can find that if you. It's called. It looks like Josh Fox Star Spangled Banner, but you see that it says 3 of 125. There's 125 videos in there in my greatest hits. That's a playlist. So feel free to skip around and just have a look at what I've done for the past 10 years, because a lot of it is in my video work. And I've participated in a lot of public hearings, permitting proceedings, regulatory documents, comments on them, proposed rulemakings, that kind of thing. I've been an intervener in half a dozen different pipelines, FERC pipelines. So, and I've done public presentations, and I've gotten some awards too. I got the Sustainable Tompkins 2016 People's Choice Award, so which I shared with my colleagues Chris McConkey, rest in peace, and Eddie Rodriguez. Like I said, I have the Virtual Pipelines Documents Archive. I have the DIMIC Documents Archive, and there's links to those in Bill Houston's Fracking Resume, this web page that I have. And my latest work was on Merrimack Valley. So, and this is where I was getting. The Merrimack Valley is really where I learned about and figured out the problem with these virtual pipeline tube trailers, specifically the application of connecting virtual pipeline tube trailers to natural gas local distribution systems. That's a big problem. Because here's the thing, let's explain this, okay? Okay, so virtual pipeline tube trailers, connecting them to natural gas local distribution systems, that's what we're talking about. Why is this such a bad idea? Because of the Joule-Thomson effect. Remember? 7 degrees per 100 psi. That's the delta. That's the change that you get. This is why if you ever fly over, which I've done several times because I'm a pipeline geek, but if you ever fly over a big natural gas compressor station, you'll see radiators, these giant, some compressors have them, perpendicular to the ground, they're parallel to the ground. They lay down like this, and they cool the gas because compressing the gas creates a lot of heat. So they run the gas through these coils, and then they blow air through them to try to take some of the heat off of the gas before they put it into the pipeline. So the problem is when you decompress down from, let me get my numbers up just so that I can tell you the, something that's right. I don't want to say things that are wrong. So when you decompress gas down from the, from say 1,000 psi, you get a temperature drop of let me just get it. Hold on. Stand by. I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm just locating this thing. I really want to. I'm going to feel a lot better about this if I if I tell you the right stuff. I apologize, really. Okay, I'm struggling to get this. Here it is. Okay, I got it. I'm very sorry about that delay, folks. Okay. So I got the right document. I just got to find the page now. Okay, here we go. So if we calculate the pressure differential for I don't think okay. So let's just tell you about the tube trailers, okay? The pressure differential for these tube trailers is so great. If we just start with 3,600 psi, and like I said, they can go up to 4,500 psi, and we subtract the pressure we're going to, like take for example a decompression system where the local distribution main runs at 75 pounds per square inch. So we're going from 3,600 coming out of the tube trailer, going down to 75 psi. So that's a simple equation that we can do. And that is 3,600 minus 75, that quantity divided by 100 times 7. And that equals 247 degrees. That's the temperature drop that you'll experience. So if we start out at 70 degrees and we subtract 247 degrees, that's 170 minus 177 degrees Fahrenheit. That is what we would call cryogenic temperatures. This is extremely cold. So the problem is, what would happen if something happens to the heater? These decompression systems, like natural gas Citygate, is the facility that normally converts the gas from high pressure transmission line, or high pressure lateral that comes off the transmission line, into medium pressure gas, which is like 75 pounds per square inch. And from there it goes through regulators that take it to 0.5 psi. That's generally the pressure that goes into people's homes, just half a pound per square inch. So the problem is, what would happen if something went wrong with the heater? When you have natural gas that's only being decompressed down from 1,000 psi, let's do the math right now. I want to get the right numbers. So let's open up a spreadsheet. So, all right. So let's take the equation that we just talked about, and let's put that in first. So we have 3,600 psi and minus 75. That's where we're going to, 75. And so this is going, this temp. Let's do start. Let me show you what I'm working on. That'll make the stream a little bit less boring for you. So let me see if I can. Okay, so I've got to get rid of this thing. All right. So I hope you can see that now. So we want to do, oops, sorry about that. The source pressure minus the destination pressure, that quantity, divided by 100 times 7. So that equals 246. This is the delta. So if we're going up from 75 psi to 3600, we would add 246 degrees, 247, we'll call that. Might even just round it to 250. That's what I do sometimes. I'll round it to 250. But if we're going down from 3600 psi to 75 psi, then we're going to subtract 246. So if our ambient temperature is 70 degrees, then if we subtract the ambient from, or the delta from the ambient, we get minus 176 degrees. Now let's do this same thing. Let's do this same equation, only instead of 3600 psi, let's do 1000. So 1000 psi, decompressing down to 75, the temperature delta is only about 65 degrees. So if we take 70 and subtract 65, it comes out to be 5 degrees Fahrenheit. That's still pretty cold. It's below the freezing point of water, and this is why the city gates and these decompression skids that these tube trailers use all have heaters. They have to have heaters because you can't just inject gas that's at 5 degrees Fahrenheit and expect it, it can freeze water. It's just going to cause a lot of problems. So they have to heat that up to something like, 50, 60, 70 degrees. So that's not cryogenic temperatures. That's not such a big problem. I mean, it's a problem if the heater breaks in a city gate, but it's not as big of a problem as if the heater breaks with a 3600 psi tube trailer. Now, keep this in mind. These trailers really, and I can elaborate on this, but you're just going to have to trust me on this for now, because I'm promising you this is the truth. These tube trailers really run more like at 450 4,500 psi, sorry. So if we start from 75, 4,500 to, this is the I'll say source psi, I'll say the destination psi. Okay. So you can see that with playing with the numbers, if you start at ambient, 70 degrees ambient, the resulting temperature is minus 240 degrees Fahrenheit. That's extremely cold. That is super, super cold. So, and if we play with the numbers a little bit, let's say instead of 70, let's say the ambient temperature is 50 degrees, okay? Let's say that this trailer starts out, it's a little bit unlikely, but there are conditions where this could happen, where you start out with 50 degrees. It's pressure stabilized. This trailer is pressure stabilized at 50 degrees. Let's say it's fall, or sometimes you get 50 degrees in the wintertime. Rarely, but fall. You can imagine 50 degrees. We can get temperatures even colder than this, but let's just start with 50 degrees because I want to show you what happens here. 4,500 psi going to 75 psi produces a temperature delta of 310 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? If the ambient temperature, if that trailer started out temperature stabilized at 4,500 psi, at 50 degrees Fahrenheit ambient temperature, the resulting temperature is minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, let me check the chat. If there's anybody out there, says 3 concurrent viewers. Hi. So I'm one of the 3. So hello, 2 people out there that are watching this right now. Somebody tell me in the chat, what is special about minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit when we're talking about methane? Anybody have an idea? I don't see anything in the chat, so I'm just going to tell you. Minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature when natural gas does a phase change from a gas to a liquid. This is LNG. I'll put it here so it makes more sense. This is LNG. We can easily produce LNG with these high pressure tube trailers. So the heater is super important when dealing with these tube trailers. But these natural gas distribution companies, I don't think they've properly considered this risk. And, you know, things break all the time. I've been an engineer and a technician for most of my adult life. I got my first job repairing cash registers. Electronics technician. My last job, I had the title engineer. I'm not a PE. I want to make that very clear. I'm not a professional engineer. That's a particular state-issued certification that people get. But I was given by my company the title engineer, systems engineer. So I have held the title of engineer. I know a little bit about physics, and a little bit about science in general, and logic. I got a warning. The stream's bitrate is going low. So I'm sorry if the stream is dropping out. Okay, it's back to green. So I don't believe that these natural gas local distribution companies have done a proper risk analysis. I don't believe, you know, there's a way to do civil engineering, and it's kind of called, there's this term that they use called safety factor. If you're an engineer, if you're a civil engineer especially, I know you've heard the term safety factor, but I'm going to try to translate that into common language. So oh, you weren't. I don't think you were watching the right thing. I didn't do the... Okay, so I'm sorry. I'm getting some technical screw-ups here. So I apologize for not showing you that that graphic. Here, let me see if I can get over to it and still do it. So let's do transition. Okay. And now if I get this out of the way, get that. Oh, wrong way. Sorry. Okay, so here we go. If we start out with 3600 psi and we start out with an ambient temperature of 70, we get minus 176. That's pretty damn cold. But if we start out with 4500 psi, which these trailers are running at, trust me, I can explain this later if you want to. And if we say that for some reason, somehow, and this does happen, that it's cold outside, the trailer gets temperature stabilized. It's like nearly full, let's say. Oops, sorry. The trailer's nearly full. And the temperature drops overnight. And let's say it drops to 20 degrees. And then they go and they top off the gas. But then the gas becomes pressure stabilized to 50 degrees because the gas is hot when it goes into the trailer. So let's say it raises it up to 50 degrees. If this trailer vents all at once, it's going to produce LNG because of the pressure drop, right? The Joule-Thomson effect says 7. I've got it right over here. Let me show you it right here. It's 7 degrees Fahrenheit per 100 psi. That's the rule of thumb used by the American Petroleum Institute. So it's really easy to do this calculation. Anybody can do it. It doesn't take a PhD. Anybody with a spreadsheet or a calculator can do this math and prove it to yourself. This is what I was saying before. Since I believe you can see this now, yep, 1,000 psi, which is typical for the last 70 years. This is even high pressure. It's probably more like 600, but let's just give it 1,000. Let's give it 600 and show you how it changes, how the formula changes, because this is a spreadsheet. At 600 psi, 70 degrees ambient temperature, the gas is 33. The gas comes out at 33 degrees. That's right around freezing. So they might not even have to heat it, but they probably still will. They're going to bring that up to 50 or 60 degrees Fahrenheit. But even if the gas, let's go way up. Let's say the lateral that feeds a city gate is 1,200 degrees. I'm sorry, 1,200 psi. Sorry about that. 1,200 psi. Okay? The destination, you know, the resultant pressure is 75. That's the distribution main. That's going to produce minus 8 degrees, minus 9 degrees Fahrenheit, below zero. That's still cold, but it's not temperatures that I would call cryogenic. So if minus 9 degree gas got injected into a natural gas local distribution system, that is going to cause a problem. But it's not going to cause the same problem as if minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit gets injected. That's LNG. That's going to cause a huge problem. Well, what would the problem look like if you actually accidentally injected at the correct pressure, but super cold? Somewhere between minus 170 degrees Fahrenheit to minus 260 degrees, which is going to be liquefied natural gas. What's the effect that it's going to have? Well, I would say the effect is that as that gas moves through the local distribution system and as it heats up, it's going to start expanding. And it's going to start expanding, I think it's 48 times is what I have here for at 3,600 psi. So 50 times. The gas is going to expand 50 times bigger than the initial volume when it's super cold. So you can imagine how that's going to affect a local distribution system. It's going to cause a massive pressure surge over a very large area. Where have we seen recently a massive pressure surge over a very large region recently? Oh yes, that would be Merrimack Valley in Massachusetts. So this is what I've been warning people against, and this is a fringe theory, but in my opinion, and all you have to do is go to the Bill Houston podcast channel on YouTube and look up let me switch the camera back to me. Look up a playlist called Merrimack MV Gas Fires Update. Go look at that, and you will see my theory about how this all happened. And there is compelling evidence that yes, it was Type 4, ultra high pressure Type 4 CNG virtual pipeline tube trailers that might have caused this big problem at Merrimack Valley, because the NTSB, their explanation doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense from an engineering and a physics perspective, and I did a whole series of videos about this, so you can feel free to go and check that out. So anyway, if you appreciate my work, friends, if you appreciate me as a human being, I'm going through a very, very, very rough time, and I may not be able to continue doing this work. So if you appreciate me and you don't want to see me homeless, I would really appreciate donations in any amount to the link above, tinyurl.com/donate to Bill Houston, or just Google Bill Houston's fracking resume, just like you see right up there, Bill Houston's fracking resume. And at the bottom of that page, there is a link for my PayPal. And there's also my P.O. box, which if you want to send me a check or a money order, if you don't do, a lot of people don't do PayPal. A lot of people don't do online things, and understandably so, with all of the piracy and identity theft that's going on. So that's it. I'm not going to, since I've been on for an hour, so this was just a test live stream. I hope there was something here that you found interesting or entertaining. I'm hoping to do more live streams and getting more comfortable with this and overcoming my own fear of going live. And I had this whenever I first went on the radio. It's pretty terrifying when you have that big microphone right in front of you and all of a sudden it's your show and nobody's telling you what to do. It's all on you. And it's pretty scary because I've been pretty beaten down. I've been extremely beaten down. I have been, a lot of big groups have taken my work, used it as their own without proper author attribution or credit of me. They have, and to great success. You know, the most recent one was No Frack Gas Cayuga. Boy, I have such resentment over what happened there. Because tube trailers, who's the expert? Ask anybody. Ask Craig Stevens. Who's the tube trailer expert? I think even Craig will say it's Bill Houston. My safety data ended up in the Tompkins County strongly worded resolution. If you go Google the Tompkins County strongly worded resolution against the fracked gas power plant conversion, and you're going to find my safety data. Did I get any thanks or recognition? No. In fact, I got a really bad deal. And when I tried to complain about the bad deal in like this sort of polite, civilized way, like, you know, adults, you know, resolve conflicts, I was issued a legal threat by some very big people. And if you go look at No Fracked Gas Cayuga and figure out who's members of that, you're going to see the names of the people. And I'm going to name names if I have to. I don't want to, because it really, really hurts me, because these people have hurt me. These people that I've worked for and alongside for many years have completely screwed my life up. One in particular, a very big name person whom I've worked for and alongside for many, many years. So I need help, friends. I really need some help right now. If there's ever been a time when you've appreciated anything that I've done, go look at Bill Houston's fracking resume to see what I've done. There's a compilation of it. And I've got a lot more in store. I've got so many stories that I'm working on. I've got this amazing video of truck traffic in Dimmock. If I can locate all my discs and get this thing put together. 8 hours. It's going to be an 8-hour video of non-stop truck traffic for 1 year. It's basically, I call it 1 year in Dimmock. And you'll see, it's like how bad it is, how much truck traffic. It drives people batty to have this truck traffic going on all the time. And the trucks kill animals on the roads all the time, and it creates potholes. It's such an incredible nuisance. So I've got the diesel story, diesel use in drilling muds. I'm trying to put that together. I have so many projects I'm trying to I can't get into this all right now, friends. I'm really in a bad way, and my life is truly on the line right now. My life is in jeopardy. I really need some help right now, friends. If there's any, if you don't have any money, don't worry about it. There's some people out there with lots of money, and when I had lots of money, I used to make a lot of money. I don't even want to say how much, but I am a computer professional in the whole .com bubble. So I've made a lot of money in my career. My skills are very marketable. And I'm going to have to find a job. And I find jobs at this point in my life. I'm 59 years old. I'm going to be 59 years old. Jobs are soul crushing. And supposedly we have this climate emergency, right? This climate crisis. Supposedly we have this... my stream's going. Supposedly we have this climate crisis, right? This climate emergency. So you would think like we need all hands on deck. Well, guess what? I got hands. I have a lot of skills, technical skills, analytical skills, research skills, computer programming skills, graphic design, video skills, audio production, all these things. I've done all this work. I've proven myself. Yet I'm getting bashed. It's getting to the point when I can't bear it anymore. My soul can't bear it anymore, and also I'm going to be homeless unless I find somebody to get me some support. So, on one hand, if you have a little bit of cash, feel free to make a donation, and I would very much appreciate it in any amount. $5, $20, whatever you have. The donations that really help me are the $100 donations and up. I've gotten a few $500 donations, and I'm so grateful to you, the people, my donors, my good friends who have given me these large donations. They really give me a big boost. I really have to raise about $2,500 to last me for 2 months while I complete a project. I've just been given this whole brand new burden that I got to deal with in the next 2 months. I don't know how I'm going to manage this, friends. So anyway, if there's anything I've ever done that you've appreciated, that you think was of value to your life, or that helped protect New York's mountains and waterfalls and streams and forests and New York's wildlife and New York's property values, and I've helped other states too. This work that I'm doing is general to any production area, like natural gas, in fact, or a production area, or a potential, like Pennsylvania. I did a lot of work in Pennsylvania for 20 months. I was in Pennsylvania doing direct work. If there's anything, just look at my fracking resume and just find out if there's something in there in all of my work over the past 10 years that you find valuable. I really could use some donations. Okay, so enough ranting and begging. I'm going to see. I have 3 viewers. Somebody say hi in the chat. I'm not getting any chats out there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I'm happy to keep going if I get some interaction here. So if you're watching, if you're one of the 2 people that are watching right now, say hi and check in. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off, and I'll see you next time. This was just a sample demo stream. I'm just trying out my new fancy graphics and my new studio setup, and I appreciate you, friends, my true friends, my friends that stand beside me and that support me. I am so grateful to you. People like, do I want to name names? I'm going to produce a list of my super donors, and I'm going to have add some graphics and some titles and some thank yous coming up. My donors, and all of my donors, the ones that, if you ever gave me $5, I am grateful to you. Very, very grateful. If you've given me $20, grateful. $100, $200, $500. When I had money, I put a lot of my own money into this fight, and I think it should show in the amount of work that I've done. Bill Houston's fracking resume, read it, check it out. You'll see the amount of work that I've done. So I'm very grateful to you, my friends, and my donors. Please share this video. Please like and subscribe. Subscribe to the Bill Houston podcast and click the bell. That's really important to me, because the more subscribers that I get, YouTube turns on additional features. So that really helps me. Please subscribe to the podcast. leave a comment and tell me you appreciate me. That would make all the difference in the world. To have a few people just tell me you appreciate me and you want me to keep going and you want me to keep doing this work. Donations if you can, only if it's possible. I need it right now more than ever. I need a couple of $1,000, like immediately. Or I'm in deep doo-doo. So, thank you, friends. I'm checking the chat one more time to see if I don't see anything in the chat. So, all right, friends, I'm going to wrap up this stream for right now. And I will see you next time.